Hello and welcome to another episode of Promethean Leaders. Today we have Ali Najaf, an esteemed HR professional who is currently working as a human resource business partner and holds CPHR designation. He has been recognized as a young HR influencer by Canadian HR Reporter magazine, and he regularly contributes to top publications like Globe and Mail and Sun Vancouver Sun. With over 4,000 volunteer hours, Ali has significantly impacted the HR community. He is dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, actively monitoring newcomers and promoting workplace inclusiveness. We are excited to hear his insight on how startups can effectively manage their HR processes. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast and for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Ali, let's start with a little bit of background. What got you started in HR and what made you interested in this field?
Sure. So, just to give a quick background, so I came to Canada 12 years back as an international student from Pakistan, and when I was choosing my field of study, I decided to go towards HR because I thought that it's a great concentration where I can focus on developing talent strategy that affect the organization triple bottom line in all the ways, because you're not just going to find the right talent for the company, but you're also going to retain the right talent for the company. So I thought this way I can create a more impact in my role and the organization. And I started my first role in ICBC as HR, and that gave me exposure to various different departments of HR and how HR function and how HR contributes to the overall organization strategy. And that further ignited my interest to pursue my career in this field.
Thank you so much for sharing the background. And I know we were in SFU together. You were my senior. I've learned quite a lot from you. So I appreciate your time here. I want to know. So basically, what I'm trying to do is helping startups learn better and about their processes and attract best talent, plus also create a HR foundation at early stages of their company so that they don't run into that much problem later on. So I want to know what steps should a startup take to establish a solid HR foundation from the beginning.
Sure. So I would say, first, at the very beginning, there's a need to define what the HR strategy is for the organization, and then tying that into the culture that you want to develop in the organization. Because if your strategy is based on the culture you want to do, then nature comes in very handy, because the nature can work and implement those policies, like those structure, those programs that can overall contribute to the organization culture, and also tying the HR strategy to business objectives as well. So let's say have KPIs, right? Where HR also play a role. So such as setting up a KPI of retention strategy, like how many employees you want to retain at the end of the year, what kind of trainings, number of employees have to complete in a year, right? So having those KPIs as part of the strategy would further ignite HR role in the organization. And my second one would be implement HR systems at the very beginning. Because one thing that startups don't do mostly that I've heard is that they don't have proper HR systems at the beginning, and they mostly rely on Excel sheets to create databases and do all the paperwork on Word and stuff. Having a proper HR system at the very beginning will improve the efficiency of the department. And even if you have one person in HR, they can run the whole department. But also it helps to retain the history of the organization as well. So then you have the historical knowledge of employee life cycle, like what the employee at startup was and how they progressed. So that way you can keep that in one shape as well. So just to wrap up on that one would be to tie the HR strategy into the business goals, and also to implement the systems at the very beginning.
Uh, Thank you, Ali. But my follow-up question on this would be uh, early stage founders and startups, let's say, even they have raised the seed round, not necessarily they would hire HR person as their focus, because most of the company would be focusing on advancing their product and releasing it to the market. So first thing people do is hire a team that can develop the product, and second thing they do is hire a team that can market and sell the product. So that would be the priority of any founder at early stages. So I would assume that they would be doing a lot of those HR thing by themselves, and startups usually do go for the contract rather than the employee, because that helps them manage, minimize the HR work for them, plus also create more flexibility for them and less trouble. So what kind of advice do you have for them, like how can they do it by themselves without hiring a HR person, so that like it's not a messy, as you said, like on doing it on Excel or Word?
I would say like even if they don't have a HR dedicated person or they don't have like any third party who's going to provide HR services, I think being staying top of the local laws and regulations and having some kind of structure in the recruitment would help them like stay on top of the HR processes for the organization, right? So let's say like staying on top of like what are the employment standard act or like what are the labor laws of that particular province. And again, like if the company is like whole Canada wide, ensuring that you know like what employees get in BC compared to what employees get in Alberta. So having that basic knowledge can help them stay afloat, and also like having some kind of structured recruitment as well. So a lot of company like they do like a lot of ad hoc hiring, but they don't have like described job descriptions or like the way to conduct proper interview with questions. So having some structure would help them in that area as well.
I see. But let's talk a bit more about their hiring processes. So basically, a person who has never hired before and now they are trying to develop their own company, their product, how will they go about hiring someone? Even as a contractor, you have to go through the interview and everything. Like, how do you actually know if someone is the right person? Like, on the resume, I would assume someone would write everything that can get them the job, and all those things might be true as well, but like most of the time things do not work out culturally for companies as an employee, and the mindset, like how the behavior works out. So how should new founders and startups conduct themselves in a way to attract the best talent, because it's already difficult for them with the cash strap to attract the best talent? So how can they attract the best talent, retain it, and also make sure that who they are hiring will be best for their culture that they are trying to build?
Sure. So this question is like three different parts. So we'll start first by working on like attracting the talent, right? So as you mentioned that like a lot of founders might not have like enough cash to offer the cash side of bonuses or like high salaries to attract people. And right now, like a lot of people focus on like a lot of non-cash benefits as well. So if you provide them like a very flexible work environment, if you have a very good recognition program in the company, or if you have like good vacation balance, sick time, like volunteer time off as well, and having like a strong values that align with people, like a lot of people will focus on those benefits more as well compared to cash as well, because you have to look at the whole compensation package. And in terms of like finding the right talent, given that like some people might not be what they are seeing in the resume, I think like it depends on role to role. A lot of companies do something called in basket test. So if you're working looking to hire a programmer or like a project manager, they'll give you like a scenario homework to do, and then they will ask you to like come up with a strategy. Some companies make it offline, some companies give you like 20 minutes during the interview to come up with your own strategy and then design. So depending on the role, companies can use different ways to assess the talent qualifications as well.
So on terms of that, what kind of mistakes you have seen startups make when they actually go about creating their HR policies and creating their onboarding processes?
Sure, a lot of like companies kind of go one in all policy, like they don't see different geographic areas. Like a lot of like startups might have people working remotely from across Canada. So as I mentioned before, right, like they need to look at like they should have like policies. Some can be generic, but some are very specific. So they need to see like how they are implementing those policies and taking into account various provincial laws as well. And second one would be again like having a proper recruitment process. It's not just that you post a job and you hire a candidate, like it's like how you properly conduct interviews. or you properly evaluate those candidates so you know that you're finding the right fit for the right role.
See, I would assume that many people who are just starting out and hiring, understanding the labor laws and all those things would be very difficult. So it's like not having HR person, they would easily run into legal trouble with government on the basis of like how they're treating their employee or how they're actually compensating them. That might run into things. I've heard from lawyers on things about creating contracts, NDAs, and cliffs and vesting contracts to protect company on the end if the employee is not good and they want to not release the stock all up front, and so they create vesting contracts and everything like that. But I also assume that new employees that are starting work, they might be not happy, and then that would cause trouble in sense legality and like getting sued for employee mismanagement.
I would say, like, again, as I mentioned, right, like there need to be like some kind of like support that the startup need to have if they're not able to like hire a full-time person inside, right? Especially like when they have like less than 10 or 15 number of employees, they're not able to have like a full headcount of HR. I would recommend to partner with the external HR company that can like do some kind of like facilitations in like onboarding and offboarding, right? Because you need to your agreement, especially employment agreement, need to insist all the things that they need to account for, right? Like especially if your company is involved in like tech production or like tech products, there need to be like a lot of non-compete agreements. There's like a lot of NDAs need to be signed, like all those things. So getting your initial documents checked by like a third party HR consulting would be very beneficial. Like that is like the cost a company should be willing to spend at the upfront, and that will go in the long run.
I see. One other thing that I have in mind about the processes is like how can they create a more effective onboarding process without having it. Like they can go out and outsource this by hiring an HR company or even hiring a fractional HR person to help them out with it. But I have seen many founder who just starts like they are basically like create with the founding team. Founding team start creating the product. After seed round, they start hiring, but there is no HR policy specified. There is no only thing that they take care of in the beginning is the NDA and non-compete. And in many instances, non-compete is not really enforceable as well, depending on what kind of industry you are in. So not having HR policy, not having understanding of how should you go about it, and not really engaging with, let's say, an HR person or a company that can help them, how can they still create a better onboarding process without running into trouble?
100%. I would say like at the very start, especially like when you have less headcount, a significant amount of time can be spent on creating like personalized onboarding package, and that should have like activities and goals the employee need to achieve in 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. That is a very good measure for the company to set the expectations, but also say how that employee has performed during those 90 days. And it is also a good way for them to test the employee in the probation period as well. So having a customized and personalized onboarding package that is tied to every person based on their job and department would go a long way of integrating them into the role, but also setting clear expectations and goals of what the company is looking from them. And second thing would be like consistent follow up and feedback. So if you think that the employee is feeling confused and not able to do the job properly, give them real time feedback. So that way you know like how they are performing, and they know that they have support available. Like they have someone they can go and ask questions, and that way company can also track like how employees been performing. So let's say if they have to terminate that employee in within the probation period, they have some kind of documentation done that they have tried their best to provide support. They have done the consistent check-ins, but the employee was still not able to perform at the optimum level. So this way, company can also protect themselves in one way.
I see. So whilst you hire an employee and put them in the probation period of, let's say, 90 days, constantly check up on them, give them feedback, and document those things. Not just like verbal thing or phone call, but actually have documentation, have some kind of email thread going on, so that you can prove, if need be, that you provided all the support you can and you gave all the feedback, but still you were not able to get the performance that you specified in the job description or specified in the hiring process by the employee, that protects you from getting into legal trouble for uh, some kind of mismanage or letting go of employee.
100%. I think like you summed it very well, right? Like proper documentation is very important, and doing that at the very beginning and having a trail of like chain of like how the performance is measured is very very important.
So one other thing is, when we start seeing is when companies start to build their HR policies and then they start to scale up and hire more and more employees. In the beginning, those HR policies are very basics. They do not contain much about how the vacation days will work out, how the compensation package will work out, how the stock options will work out. But as they start growing, those become a very important part of the conversation with the employee. So how can they evolve their HR policies while they are growing as well?
Sure, I would say like as companies is starting to grow and more people are hired, like sometimes like companies might hire like in 1 year like 10 employees, but next year they might hire like 50 employees, right? So that is a very big jump and scale. Like one thing that a lot of companies miss in that time is their core values and mission, that they were teaching those first 10 employees because they had time at that time, but not those 50 employees. So preserving your core values and mission, and continuously talking that language throughout like the town halls, through the meetings, the newsletters and everything, will instill those policies in the people. So if your company has like two or three core values, try to bring them up in all meetings. So this way like employees know what the company stand for, like what the culture is, and then off their mind they always contribute towards those values. And second thing would be like empower employees as well. Get their constant feedback. Like as a company is growing, there might be some policies that might have worked when there was only like 5 employees, but it might not work when there's like 40, 50 employees. So make sure that you're empowering employees and give them opportunity and sit on the table to get their feedback on like how you can improve the processes, how you can like implement new system, what kind of feedback they have. And through continuous improvement, companies can properly scale themselves.
So in what stage of the company you think it becomes mandatory or very, very important for company to hire an HR employee who can manage everything?
I would say as long you hit the 15% mark maximum, there should be HR person, because at that time things start to get bigger and bigger. And like as when you have HR person, they'll be more proactive to know what to do rather than like being reactive at that time. So I would say it would be great to if it was at 10 employees, but 15 should be the maximum number. That after that there should be a HR person in the company who can help the founders properly scale the company.
So what level of HR employee they should go for? Because like I can assume that like there are a lot of HR employees at different levels. So for a startup like that, which only has 15 people, what kind of HR personnel with what kind of experience they should be expecting?
I would say they should start, if they're only going to have one person in HR, to start as a senior HR journalist level, because that person would have like at least 4 to 5 years of experience in HR, and they would have touched all areas of HR, and if not all, like at least 5 to 6 years of HR as well. Because as a journalist, they have to do like recruitment, they have to do training, onboarding, performance, compensation, depending like what kind of company they have previously worked. So they can help build that foundation as the company grows. So senior HR journalist would be the right fit at 15% mark.
Do you think they can use fractional HR or an HR company till that point as well, till they are like 15 employees?
I would say like when you're at 15 employees, you need someone in house that can be on the ground, interacting with the employees on daily basis, like looking at to see how we can improve our policies, efficiencies, and being there for employees, right? Like at 15% mark, employees need someone that they can go and talk about their vacation balance, their payroll, like their performance, like training and all those things. And at that time, you need to have someone in house who can take care of all those things while you focus more on the operation side.
I see. So how will that let's say company without an HR person and they have not reached the 15% 15 employee mark yet, they would take care of retaining talent and engaging talent? Because I assume that's like a very important part, but it's also very difficult because like founding team while developing the product, all the time and effort goes into the product itself and marketing the product, but like taking care of the employees also is very important. I have seen founders themselves run into trouble with other co-founders because of the issues related to HR.
I would say like there are some people in the organization who are like people champions. You might be able to find like a manager or a lead level who is very interested in like their people development and team development, right? So provide them support, like provide them like some kind of additional responsibility that if they don't have HR person, they're there to look at employee morale. Like they're like doing like coaching, they're providing some kind of in-house training to those employees to develop them. So that way their morale is always high. Like people are feeling comfortable talking to them about the concerns that they face. So that way they can then relay those concerns to the founder. So if you're not able to afford a HR person at that time, have someone internally, a manager who is a people person, like would like to like develop people and coach people.
I see. So having that kind of person, a manager or even a co-founder themselves with such ability of managing people and being a people person can help early on.
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen that like uh, the best kind of like training that happens is when a manager is interested in their employee development.
I see.
I've seen more growth in the company and the department where a manager is taking more interest and time to go and like talk to their employees. So if you identify those managers in your organization, give them extra support so they roll up their sleeves and go on the ground to carry on all those programs.
Yeah. So without any kind of budget for HR, how can like startups develop employee development and growth programs?
I would say you don't need a lot of budget at this time, like in this time of environment where we have so much access to online resources to develop like training and stuff. LinkedIn do offer a lot of free LinkedIn training courses, and employees can access that through their local library cards as well. So that is one way. Also, like engage your managers, like who are subject matter experts in the softwares you use or the product you develop, and have them like develop in-house training. And there is like a lot of free stuff available online as well. And I would say one more thing that you can do is that engage with your like fellow peers from outside the industry, right? Like outside your company, like the founders that you like working with, or like the people that have supported you previously. So you bring them in house and like they come and like do like webinars, training sessions, like all those kind of things. So there is like a lot of ways right now where you can get creative without spending a lot of budget to do a lot of training for employees.
I see. So access all the free stuff as you can to help employee develop and help your company create and develop a even higher talent, and then hopefully you can retain it and build a solid team.
Yeah.
So in terms of HR policies, again, like I do want to come back on the HR policies because those are really important at early on. So at early stages, what kind of policies they should like have no matter what, like because I have seen people just post, "Hey, we are looking for this person to help develop this full stack developer. We need that," but they don't have anything to compare their notes on. Like, what should we be looking for? What kind of things we can offer right now? What kind of policies we will have? Like, if this person does not perform at that level, how we should terminate it? Those things are very important. And without having those kind of knowledge and basically skills at that point can cause huge trouble in future with that employee that they're trying to hire.
I would say two things, and then you'll be set for like the start from day one. Have an employee handbook, like, and consider that as book as like a copy should be accessible to everyone, and that should include all of your policies, right? Like your anti-discrimination policy, your travel policy, like your compensation policy, like your wage review policy, like how to like access like travel card, like how to reimburse like expenses, right? And like how to book a meeting room, like how to order like business cards. So having like one handbook which has like all the key elements together, accessible to employees, will go a long way. So they have like something they can always reflect back to whenever they need any support, and make sure you continuously update as well. Because like as like time changes, there's a lot of policies that change throughout the time as well. So make sure that is also updated very regularly as well, and try to make sure that you get it reviewed externally by like a counselor, like a HR expert, if you don't have a in-house HR person. And the second thing they should do is like have defined job descriptions for each role. So if you're hiring someone for like a product manager role, make sure that they get a copy of the defined job description, so they know that what their expectations are for, what things they will do in their role. And also it's a chance for company to like measure their performance as well. Like, do they have performed those duties properly, and like what kind of things they need to do to go to the next senior product manager level. So having a defined employee handbook in a very comprehensive manner, and having like detailed job description for each role, and giving the access to employees will set up company from day one.
I see. So, do you think there are some kind of resources founder can go through to understand more of HR policies, legal restrictions on labor laws in Canada, or let's say in BC per se, so that they can familiarize themselves and train themselves to at least certain level before going out there and try to get employees?
Yeah, there's like a lot of like free resources available as well. So let's say if you're based in BC, there's CPHR BC and your own chapter. Or if you're in Alberta, there's CPHR Alberta. So each province has their CPHR association. And there's a lot of free resources available on their website as well. That has like a lot of templates. There's like sample job descriptions. There's also like a lot of like sample best practices available there as well, like how to hire someone, how to terminate someone, how to do onboarding plan. So there is free resources available, so they can consult those while they look for a full-time person.
I see. So before we go into closing, I want to know if you have any kind of final advice for founders for their HR policies, employees, like hiring new employees or just starting out and scaling their company.
I would say the best thing that the founders can do at the very beginning is investing in building a strong culture. So make sure that you have defined core values and mission, so that way you can hire people based on those values. So those people are aligned with your values and mission, and those people will perform very well because they know like what the company believes in, and then what they believe in, and if those interests matches together, that goes a very long way. And second thing would be being proactive and adaptable. Make sure that rather than being reactive, you're always proactive to see how employees are doing, how to improve the processes. So there's always a piece of continuous improvement. And if you see there's any like changes coming up in law or system, being adaptable to those, and getting sign up to them on a very early basis will set up the companies for success.
Thank you, Ali. One question that just came to my mind was on the culture and mission and vision. You can write mission and vision, you can interview it, but like still, like how would you know that someone actually aligns with the mission and vision?
Sure. So you can like ask them like a lot of behavioral questions, right? Like how they perform in a certain value. So if one company's mission is giving back to the community, like that is their core value. So you can ask employees those example of like how they have given back to the community, like what kind of like causes they support. So that is like one way. Other things like a lot of companies core value would be like accountability. So you can like ask those employees like how they have made themselves accountable, or how they've made others accountable, right? So like you can ask like those behavioral questions to gauge their interest and their experience to see like how they match with your core values.
Thank you, Ali. I think that's a really good way to do this. Just ask a question of giving or asking them to give the example when last time they did this or that, which aligns with their core value. As you said, like if giving back to community is the thing, you can ask them like what kind of things you volunteer for and what kind of communities you volunteer in and when was the last time did you volunteer. This kind of question can tell you what an employee actually values and what kind of things they engage with. uh, so another thing that I wanted to ask you, it's not related to startups, it's not related to even the HR stuff, let's say, but I do want to ask you how to answer if someone asks you what are your weaknesses.
I would say be very open to say what your weaknesses are, but also mention that how you're overcoming them or how you're improving them. So that gives the manager or the hiring manager an opportunity to see that yes, this person has something to improve, but they are continuously working on improving that as well. So that shows like that proactiveness, that shows that initiative that the company also understand that if they'll be able to improve themselves and they're working hard to do that, they'll come into the company if they see like some processes are flawed, they'll work hard to improve those as well.
So we can't say in the job interview, oh, my weaknesses, I work too hard.
Or you can say that, but then you will say like how you're trying to like then balance yourself, right? Like how you're working to like taking time out from your schedule to go and do like meditation, jogging, all those kind of things as well.
You really take care of the employee, I see.
Yeah.
So okay, so I think we didn't touch base on the part of diversity in team diversity in workplace and team. So like at the early stage founder, I don't think like founders will really think about that part early on, but do you think that that is very important to do so?
I would say it's very, very important to have diversity, inclusion, and equity and belongingness in your policies, in your hiring practices, in your onboarding, and also your vision and mission as well. Canada is a very diverse country. Like we are a mosaic of people from different backgrounds, and creating a culture where you are not just accepting that diversity but also celebrating it will create like an environment where everyone will feel comfortable to work hard and thrive.
I see. So Ali, are you offering fractional HR services to companies?
Yeah, so at this time I do pro bono services to various not-for-profit organizations, helping them streamline their HR processes as well as like their internal policies and procedures on HR as well.
Okay, so for that pro bono services for strictly for non-profit or for it can be for profit companies.
I'm open to other clients as well, but right now my focus was mostly on not-for-profit. But I'm open to like clients in private sector as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Ali, for coming on the show and also sharing all your insight about HR. I think it's really important for founders to understand HR policies early on and not run into trouble because if you start your HR policies and start your journey with HR, I would say at later stages thinking like, oh, we don't need it right now. We just need to develop product and all. Then it gets really messy. It gets a lot more troublesome to get things going, and then you run into a lot of things that you might not expect. Employee compensation, employee perks, and vacation, and all those things are very, very important. How you will be compensated because early on you might not have that much budget to even compensate employee on the basis of cash alone, so you'll be offering like a stock option maybe. But then later on when you start your seed round and you start your series A and you have a little bit more money, you need to be very open about like how employees are actually going to get benefit from that money that you have raised. Is it just going to go into developing a product or is it also going to go into increasing salaries and increasing perks and all that? Because if not, then employees also need to take care of themselves, so they would start looking outward of the company to actually get what they feel like they deserve, so they need to be able to feel like they are being compensated well.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Like one that's a final piece of advice I want to give as well while I close this conversation is that as you're scaling the company and as you're investing more in the product, make sure you also invest in your people as well. Because like they are the ones who are going to work hard to scale your assets, right? And if you invest in your people, which are your most important asset, they are more willing to give back because then they feel that they're being valued for their time.
Yeah, company is made of people, not just products.
100%.
Thank you so much, Ali. And if anyone wants to reach out to Ali, I will be putting his contact information down in my description. So anyone want to talk to him about HR policies or need his help, hire him for if you are running a non-profit organization, Ali offers pro bono. If you're running a for-profit organization, Ali might be able to help you out with some discounts here on his HR services. So let's see about that. Thank you so much, Ali.
Thank you so much, Sumad, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.